Let's hunt the wren, says Robin the bobbin. Let's hunt the wren, says Richard the robin. Let's hunt the wren, says Jack and the lamb. Let's hunt the wren, says everyone. A chirpy, if rather bloodthirsty little number, that one. Now, I don't mind a bit of folk now and again. I really don't. In fact, I've even been known to cut a rug at the occasional ceilidh. Not lately, of course, but I did attend a Zoom ceilidh recently. Yes, nobody likes a bit of folk music more than I do. Apart from Jenny Underwood. Mind you, she won't be attending any ceilidhs, virtual or otherwise, in the foreseeable future. And as for her friend Ian, well, he's gone right off them. Right off them. And this is the story of why. The story of how he found out the secret of the Cutty Wren. These days, of course, I never listened to folk music. I wasn't too keen on it to begin with. It was Jenny Underwood who overcame my resistance to the genre. She did love a good ceilidh. You wouldn't catch me near one now. Even the sound of an accordion makes me shudder. We used to sit at the back of the local folk club, laughing at the names of some of the songs they played, such as "Granny, hold a candle while I shave the chicken's lip." That's something we'll never do again. Those songs are no laughing matter to me now. And whatever you do, don't ever play the Cutty Wren in my presence. Ceilidhs were Jenny's favourite way of letting off steam. She would press gang me into accompanying her to the ones the folk club organised, so we could both dance, somewhat ineptly, to what passed for music. After my initial reluctance, I have to admit I rather enjoyed it, spinning Jenny round and round until she squealed with delighted terror. But that was as far as things went. It had been easier than usual for her to twist my arm into coming to this one as I faced another solitary Christmas. I opened the door, and there she was, with tinsel in her hair and a glint in her eye. I knew it wasn't for me, of course. Usually, before the night was through, she'd have paired off with someone, sometimes sparing a glance in my direction, one I'd invariably refused to return. The last thing I wanted was her pity. The very nature of some country dances encourages such behaviour, the way they force one to move from one's original partner to a succession of rivals. Sometimes I flattered myself she was trying to provoke me into making some kind of move. But she knew I found the notion of office romance unthinkable. And every time I touched on the subject with Jenny, Professor Underwood that is, she showed every sign of agreeing with me. Besides, it was clear to me that she looked elsewhere for such liaisons. My function was simply to ensure that she did not turn up at the door without a male escort. I had no illusions that she would be leaving with me. I could always have followed her example and sought an alternative companion, I suppose. But I preferred to sit on the sidelines, mesmerised by the whirling blur of dancers. From time to time I'd see Jenny in the arms of her partner, or spinning with gay abandon, her dress fanning out, and I'd smile a bittersweet smile and close my eyes as if lost in a dream of what might be. That night I opened my eyes from my reverie to see she was no longer on the dance floor. Few were, as the caller had taken a break, leaving the band to play the Cutty Wren, a lilting, haunting ballad in a swooping minor key. Suddenly, there she was, standing by my chair, an odd, fierce look on her face, cold steel in her eyes. I saw the man with whom she'd been dancing but a few minutes before hurriedly making for the exit, his hand covering his reddened cheek. "Come on," she said, straightening her dress, which I saw was ripped at the hem. "Let's go." We walked to the car in silence. Occasionally I glanced in her direction, noting how the green tartan dress set off her grey eyes, but also how oddly the jauntily attached scrap of tinsel sat with her angry, brooding expression. Neither of us knew quite what to say. Actually, I'm speaking for myself here. My mouth kept opening, but nothing came out. Possibly she felt no desire to talk anyway. It was a clear, chilly, windless night, a harbinger of frost, no doubt. Under other circumstances, the starscape might have been romantic. "Good thing I haven't had a drink," I muttered, unlocking the car door. We got in. As both driver and passenger doors slammed shut with a resonance the intense silence seemed to exaggerate, she finally spoke. "You weren't doing much dancing tonight, Ian?" There was a sardonic edge to her voice. "No," I agreed. "I wasn't." "Come on, say what's on your mind." "Well, what do you think, seeing as you're so sure there's something?" I asked. "You tell me," she pressed back, with what sounded like a sigh of exasperation. "It's your mind." This was turning into verbal tennis, the frustratingly fractious kind that veers back and forth between deuce and advantage. "Well," I began. To stretch the metaphor, my abortive mumble of a reply had weakly tapped the ball over the net, enough to place it on her side of the court. She smashed it back ferociously. "It's obvious. How sad, you're thinking. The way she puts herself about, throws herself at every man in there. How needy, how desperate." "I've never said," I began. I couldn't take my eyes off the tinsel, nodding furiously along with the head to which it was attached. "It's written all over your face, Ian." "Well, I'm not desperate. I do it because I want to, because it's fun. Fun. Remember that? You should try it sometime." Game, set and match. Things soon thawed between Jenny and me, surprisingly quickly. Not long after, early on New Year's Day in fact, the phone rang. It was Jenny. "Do you remember that song they played at the Ceilidh at Christmas, Ian?" I stuttered, surprised she would want to bring that event back up again. Surprised she was ringing at all, after the terms on which we parted that night. I was a bit slow on the uptake, understandably, at 8 o'clock in the morning on January the 1st, although I'd been doing anything much more lively than watching Jules Holland, alone. Nevertheless, she had caught me on the hop, coming straight out with it. Not even so much as a Happy New Year. "Oh, come on, Ian, mate. You must remember. It was the one no one was dancing to. It was sort of a bit shoegazy for a Ceilidh." I cringed inwardly at her affectation of youthful speech patterns, a kind of verbal mutton dressed as lamb that served to remind me why it would never have worked between us anyway. I was some 10 years her junior, yet I didn't feel the need to babble in this fashion. "You mean the Cutty Wren?" I said. "That's the one. It didn't seem very festive, and yet it's traditionally played on Boxing Day. I got a lead on its origins, on the night of the Ceilidh as it happens, and maybe something else. I'm going to follow it up. You up for it?" "What exactly?" "A field trip," she said. "We're going to hunt for the Cutty Wren."